Lighting materials work together to produce the overall look of the game. Having those two work together closely is important. We need to make sure that our materials are reacting properly to light and our lights are configured to show those materials as well as possible. I've made a temporary scene here. It's got a fire truck, a duck, and a top. What we can see in here, even in the default directional light in my scene, is that these materials shine in a certain way. They've been configured in their materials and by their different textures in their properties to look a certain way and react to light in a certain manner. What we can see, for example, is that all three have a normal map on them. I'll select my zombie duck and open it up here on the left side in the hierarchy to pick the ZomDuck, the actual model. What we can see is that this zombie duck has a shader, a standard shader on it with an opaque rendering mode, and there's maps in here for the albedo, the raw color without any lighting data, and a normal map dictating where it appears to have more surface detail, in this case the stitching. There's a smoothness and a metallic slider, and these all together combine to produce the look currently of that duck. We can see also the top, if we select it, has a spinning top material, in this case a standard with specular setup, down here in the inspector. I'll open up that material, and we can see that the top has an albedo, again, the color of the material without any lighting data, a normal map to simulate additional detail, and an occlusion map dictating where in the top there's a greater or lesser contribution from indirect lighting. Depending on how we adjust a material will look different in light. For example, I'll take the top and I'll slide up the smoothness from 0.3 up to 1. As this top gets smoother, we can see that light concentrate. The specular highlight gets brighter and closer to white and also narrower. As we take smoothness down, we can see that the highlight diffuses across the surface. When smoothness is all the way at 0, this is a very rough surface, spreading the light entirely. I'll bring this back up so it's a moderately shiny top. We can see this with a fire truck as well. Right now, it's kind of a matte color, as we'd expect a carved wooden fire truck to be. In this case, what we're seeing is that there's a specular map here, and that's dictating where this is shinier or duller. I'll click on the specular map, and it'll highlight it in the inspector. I'll double-click or bring that one up and take a look at it here in the inspector. And we can see that it's mostly gray, with some lighter and darker areas on the unwrap of that model. And what this dictates is that there are areas that are slightly more or less shiny on the fire truck. Again, these objects won't work well without a light, and so I'm going to put another light in to really show how light and those materials interact. I'll choose Game Object, Light, and Point Light. Immediately, once we put the point light in, we can see a change in the duck. I'll pull that point light out and bring it up. This point light has a range of 10 meters, and if we back out, we can see that sphere delineated by the light yellow lines here that shows the range of that light. As we slide this light back and forth, we can see on the fire truck and the duck that the highlight travels, and this wouldn't be possible without those materials reacting that way to this light. Again, this highlight wouldn't show without a light, and so we see how the materials and lighting are very necessary to work together. I'll pull this light back and up a little bit, and right here we can really see where the varying properties of the material on the fire truck react differently to a light. That sticker for the window, for example, is shinier, and so pulling that light back and forth shows us a traveling highlight that changes across the material. Where the light is hitting the side of the fire truck, it's definitely duller, although the hose is a little bit brighter. Coming forward, though, onto that window, we can definitely see it's a different material. It reads differently, as if it was a plastic sticker, for example. Coming around to the front and pulling it over on the red x-axis, again, shows us where the front windshield is a little bit shinier. That subtle travel in the specular highlight really shows us what the material is doing and what this object appears to be made of. When we pull down, we can see a difference on the duck. I'll orbit around, holding Alt or Option on the left mouse, and pull this light closer. I'll pan over, and what we can see here is that that extra point light is really bringing out the detail on our duck. As I pull it in, and pull it backwards and forwards, the stitching really reads. Again, this is in the normal map, which is providing additional detail apparently on the polygons, but not changing silhouette. Because the normal map understands both height and direction, or rather which way the surface is reoriented apparently to catch the light, it needs a light to work properly, and that combines with the diffuse map on this duck. We believe then, because of the way that the light and the material work together, that this is a slightly glossy stitched duck, as if it was made of a plastic or nylon thread, for example. This is just a quick example of lighting and materials working together. It's important to remember this when you're creating objects and designing your level or designing your materials, that they need to look right in the lighting, and that the way that the scene is lit will radically affect the appearance of your materials. Similarly, when you're lighting your scene, take into account the materials. Different materials, such as our slightly shiny duck or our moderately shiny spinning top, will react differently in different lights. In the next videos, we'll craft our materials for our Zombie Toys game project, taking a good look at our specular shader and what the different properties do, and how we can fine-tune a material to really bring to life our game in light.